Today, I've got Jason Greenhaw on the show. Jason is the owner of Legacy Fitness in Kingwood, Texas, where he's been leading and impacting people for more than 21 years. He's not just building a gym, he's built a community and a culture centered around growth, resilience, mindset, and helping people become their best self. He's also the author of Monday Mindsets, a book designed to help people start their week with clarity, positivity, and intention. Jason, I'm pumped to have you on. Welcome to the show, brother.
Man, I'm excited, Sean. Thanks for having me. And a great intro on me, by the way.
Absolutely, man. Of course. So take us back for a moment. We're sitting in a coffee shop, just having a conversation. For our listeners and audience, what originally drew you into fitness and leadership and wanting to help people really transform?
Yeah, for sure. So I've actually always been into fitness. I played basketball in high school, but never really played anything else, and then didn't really work out very much until I got to about the age of 16. And so it's actually a funny story. So I really bounced around on a lot of things that I like to do. So my parents never really wanted to commit all in to buying me like a set of weights, because they're like, next week he's going to want to do something totally different. And so I basically started with like milk jugs filled with water or filled with sand, and I put them on a broomstick. And this sounds like I'm making this up, but I would be doing curls and military presses and things like that. And so my parents saw that, and they still like totally weren't committed all in. But the funniest part, when they finally committed to buying me a weight set, I actually hooked up a lat pull down in my garage. And so basically what I did, this sounds ridiculous, but I had a broomstick attached to a cable, attached to a pulley in the ceiling. The other end was attached to a cinder block, and I was sitting underneath it, pulling it down when my mom comes into the garage. And basically I have a cinder block above my head doing a lat pull down. And she finally was like, okay, maybe he is serious about this weightlifting thing. Yeah. So she bought me my first little Joe Weider set of weights or whatever. And really since then, I've always been passionate about fitness. I went to Sam Houston State to study exercise physiology, but my wife then got married, actually came home and was working as a prison guard, which is funny because people who know me, they're like, he is not the personality of a prison guard. But it didn't last long. But I thought it's where I needed to be at the time. But while I was a prison guard, I started working out at Bally Total Fitness. And I just saw a sign on the wall that said, hiring certified trainers. So I went to the front desk, kind of asked them what that was all about. And they kind of showed me the journey and the path. And I actually worked for Bally's for 5 years before I opened Legacy. So so Bally's was good to me. I learned a lot, sat under some great trainers and some good leaders. And then in 2005, just said, you know what, I might could do this on my own. So, and then that's how Legacy started.
So you've been leading Legacy Fitness for over 21 years, which that's impressive, man. That's over 2 decades.
Thank you.
What has kept you committed? I love that word, committed, through the ups, the downs, and the changes over time. Because that's not easy, man. It's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, for sure. And you're exactly right. There's ups and downs, as you know, to owning any business. A lot of hard work gets at the start. But to me, honestly, it was, there'd be times where I'm like, maybe this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I don't know. There's, whether there's not many clients or something went wrong or, you need equipment or whatever. But honestly, it would be, I'm a very relational person. Like, I've worked with tons of trainers over the years that like meet with you twice a week and don't talk to you on the other day. So I was always the guy that texted you every single day or called you just to check on you, see if you're sore, see if you drank your water, all that good stuff. But then the people who would say that personal relationship made a huge difference in their life, and kept them on track on their nutrition or their exercise, just so people kind of appreciating that relationship kept me going. And then the results, of course, when you have someone that loses 100 pounds and kind of gets their life back and gets excited about certain things. And I remember one time I had a lady that just really transformed her body and did really great. And this isn't the reason why, but it gave her more confidence to go out, and she ended up meeting a great guy. They got married. They're still married, 18 years later. So things like that, if you're kind of feeling down on yourself or sad about something, then someone tells you something like that, you're like, okay, maybe I'm where I'm supposed to be. Just keep pushing a little longer,
Yeah. Was there, in that 20 years of building Legacy, I'm sure there's so many testimonies, so many stories. Was there a season that almost broke you?
There was, and it probably dealt with lots of other circumstances, like family life. About 7 years ago, I went through a divorce that was not so good. And then it was trying to balance young kids and COVID and that and Legacy, so it was almost at that point, Yeah, if I was ever going to throw in the towel, that probably would have been it. But I wasn't sure what else I would do. So so that was probably the hardest part.
What would you say has changed the most in you as a leader internally over the years and going through that season?
Yeah, I think so. I used to be, and I probably still am partly. If I want something done, I'm just going to do it myself, even if it takes me 20 of my 24 hours. I'm not going to ask someone else to do it, or I'm not going to um, trust someone else to do it, probably, and so as I've gotten older, I've decided I can delegate. Other people are just as good or better at me if I can just trust them a little bit. So through that whole process, I had to take a step back because I was trying to navigate this stuff over here with kids and stuff like that. And I have other trainers that work at Legacy. And it was a point where I was like, you know what? They've been working there a long time. It's time to trust them. And, hopefully some stuff I've said in the past have rubbed off on them or whatever. So to be able to do that would be a big change because I can be a workaholic. So
I know a lot of our listeners and audience resonate with that on delegation and struggling with that on what to delegate and when to delegate and who to delegate it to. And it's a skill set, it's a muscle to be continuously trained. So it sounds like you've made some improvements on that to be able to do that and trust the people around you and internalize that and be okay with that.
yeah, still work in progress, but it's getting there.
Awesome, man. Well, that's it. We're all a work in progress.
Right.
Transitioning Monday mindsets. So you wrote Monday mindsets. Why do you believe mindset is such a critical piece for people trying to grow in life and business?
Yeah, for sure. So basically, I'm a huge believer in, we can't control the things that happen to us. Some things we're just totally out of our control, but we can always control how we react to them. And that's where kind of, I believe, our mindset comes into play. So something bad happens. Usually you have two roads to go down. You could go down the woe is me, this sucks, I don't want to do this anymore, or the what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? And so that's really, to me, the importance of the mindset. Now, the Monday mindset concept really came from, so like for the last 10 years, I've been writing these Monday motivational Facebook posts. They're just like things that I learned that week. Maybe my kid told me, I saw a quote on TV, and how I can apply it to my life and all that stuff. So I've been writing these things forever. I've got 500 of them, and so when I heard a quote, I guess a few years ago by Les Brown, motivational speaker, he said, 75% of people are unhappy with their job, unhappy going to work. And so that kind of, in my mind, the way that started working was, basically all of us have a Monday. We all have to go to work on Monday. But if 75% of us are unhappy, but the deal is Monday is coming every week. We're not able to get rid of that Monday. So if we're not able to change that Monday's coming, then what we can change is how we approach it. And so that's really where that came from, is the concept of, instead of being upset or angry or nervous about going to work, let's look at it like, okay, what can I learn this week? Or how can I impact someone else this week? Or how can I reframe my thinking around Monday to where now I'm excited to go to work? Because it's like that whole thing, you find something you love to do and get someone to pay you for it, and it's not actually like work. So that was kind of the whole concept around Monday mindsets.
I love that, man. What would you say from your experience in learning from that journey in writing the book would be some of the biggest mental barriers you see people battling? And that can be anything from fitness, leadership, entrepreneurship. What would be one or two biggest mental barriers that you've seen people battling with?
Yeah, I think sometimes just changing our perspective of how we're looking at certain things. There's one entry in the book that I really like. So I live in Atascocita. My parents live in Huffman. That's divided by a big Lake Houston bridge, right? So we're crossing the bridge one day, and on the right side, the water's super choppy. On the left side, it's like smooth. And I've been traveling this bridge literally for 30 years. And I remember several times thinking, like, what in the world is it so choppy on one side and so smooth on the other? I mean, it's the same water. It's a bridge. It goes underneath. And I thought for years I could not figure it out. And then one time my son was in the car with me, and I asked him, I was like, what in the world do you think is going on? He said, you're just looking at it from the wrong angle. You got the wrong perspective. He said, when you're coming from the other way, it looks different. And I thought, yeah, my 8-year-old just taught me something huge right here. And so, yeah, just there's certain situations and circumstances we can't change. So let's just, how different would it look if we looked at it from a different perspective? Like maybe take a step back and just kind of think about it a little longer, change our perspective. So I try to do that a lot.
Yeah, that's
not
good.
great, but I'm working on it.
That's wise.
Yeah.
A lot of business owners and leaders are really disciplined, from my experience, in business, certain aspects of their business, but very inconsistent with themselves, reflecting, looking at it different perspectives, internalizing. Why do you think that happens?
I mean, at least from personal experience, entrepreneurs, people think that entrepreneurs sit back and collect money, right? But they don't see we don't stop from, I mean, it's not just a 8 to 5 for us, so it's constant, it's all day, all the time. So to me, I think maybe just we don't prioritize ourselves. Like we can look and say, well, my business needs this because it needs more money and it needs more clients and it needs more stuff. So if we took a step back and be like, if I prioritize myself, even for just a little bit, I'm going to show up better for them and I'm going to show up better for employees and better for clients, which ultimately is going to do all those other things that I need the business to do, like get more people, bring it. But I think, at least for me, I kind of look at, well, I've got to do this right now for this person. Oh, Jason can wait a little bit, but again, if we just take a step back and be like, okay, this is better for everyone if I spend a little time on myself. So
That's pure gold, man. Talking about physical fitness and reflecting and looking at ourselves in the mirror, how do you think physical fitness, because you're actively involved in it for 20 plus years now, and so am I, how do you think that impacts leadership, our confidence, how we feel, and the way someone shows up in life just in general?
yeah, for sure. I think, the more fit we are, the better we feel about ourselves, the more confidence we're going to have. And I think everybody wants something different. I mean, like, I'm not saying you have to be the bodybuilder and super lean, person, but just feeling comfortable in your own skin, you're going to show up a little better for other people and then feel a little more confident. Because ultimately entrepreneurship, you've got to sell yourself, and so you walk into a room of people just feeling good about yourself, feeling confident, feeling like you've worked on yourself a little bit. So, we always feel better when we eat right and drink our water and exercise. So
Yeah, it's almost like we're being set up for failure. Every billboard, every time you pull up social media, every time you go into a restaurant, it's just unhealthy food all around us. So it's
and it looks so good.
so good. I resonate
Yeah.
so much with that. One thing we talk about a lot, or at least I do, is what is the point of building success, whatever that looks like for you, if your health, marriage, faith, or even peace is falling apart? I'm curious on your take on that, on your thoughts on that.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny you said peace because so at the beginning of this year, I did something a little different. I didn't want to make a New Year's resolution. I kind of wanted to have a term or a sentence that I kind of reflected on throughout the year. And mine was actually protect my peace. And so I wish I would have thought of that at an earlier age, because I think we do sacrifice our peace and our health and our well-being, mental well-being, just for the whole entrepreneurship and trying to look successful. Either it's to other people or even, maybe an inflated sense of success to ourselves or whatever. But you're right. If you're sacrificing the things that really matter, then it's not worth it. And then you also maybe can reframe what you think of success. Like if success is having a great marriage and being healthy and having a strong faith, and if we think about those as being successful, then maybe we look at it a little different. So yeah, it's totally not worth it. I would say I did not do a great job of that in my earlier years, but yeah, definitely better at prioritizing other things now.
Yeah. For someone listening to this and you talk about becoming your best self, and I love saying becoming that 10.0 version of ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what does that mean to you to help someone become their best self, not just physically in fitness, but as a whole person, but as a whole?
Yeah, definitely. I think just helping someone feeling fulfilled. I did a little study on this recently, just the happiness versus fulfillment. Happiness, it comes and goes kind of quick. It usually is like a little flashier, like something big happens. We're happy for a little bit, but then we're jumping to the next thing to get happy. But really finding fulfillment, fulfillment, I think looks much different. It's not loud and shiny all the time, but just to be able to sit by yourself and feel a sense of peace, feel a sense of fulfillment. I mean, that I get high on that when other people, I can tell they're getting there, you know, And myself too. That's a big journey for me. I have not arrived, but I'm definitely working towards fulfillment. So, yeah.
I love that, man. What would you say the first step they need to take to finding fulfillment would be?
Yeah, I think maybe like a sense of self-evaluation, finding really what's important to you. I think it's hard to find fulfillment if you don't know what will fulfill you, and if you don't know, I'm not saying that someone has to know right now because that can be a search and a journey that they go on to find what they need to feel fulfilled, and I think it's different for everybody. And, like I said, I don't think everybody knows exactly would make them fulfilled. But I think once finding that out, then you can also find your why you do other things. Like, why am I working so hard? Well, to truly feel fulfilled, I want to be able to spend more time with my kids or, whatever. And so, you find that why, and then that kind of leads you towards that path, I think.
Yeah, I love that. As far as legacy and significance, I'm curious on your perspective on this and being in similar in age. How do you define legacy, significance now where we are compared to what you thought it meant 10, 15 years ago?
Yeah, definitely. I think now I would like to know what my grandkids say about their grandfather. You know what I mean? To me, that's more important. I think 15 years ago, it was probably having someone that I may not even know think I was successful, and it's crazy to think that sometimes we value those other people's opinions more than what we really want our legacy to be. So yeah, that's definitely changed a lot with me lately. So
Have you ever done a eulogy, your own eulogy?
I have not, but it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, when I hired my first business coach 4 years ago, that was one of the things he made me do. And of course, I was not in the right state of mind. My ego and pride was driving me. And when I was writing the eulogy, I was like, yeah, this guy's 10.0. He's awesome. He's legit.
Right.
And so I need to go back and revisit it now that I've gone through this spiritual transformation in the last 4 years. But man, I would
Yeah.
I would empower anybody to write their own eulogy.
Okay.
And you hit the nail right on the head. What do I want my kids? What do I want my grandkids saying about me at the funeral? And it really slows you down and allows you to reflect on, was he kind? Did he spend time, energy, and effort with me? So it's a great exercise.
Yeah. And I like how you say that at what they're going to say at your funeral, because like I just said, we're so concerned with these people that we don't know and their opinions about us, but they probably not even going to be at our funeral. Let's be
Oh,
honest. you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
agreed. I loved how you said it as well. It's like 15 years ago, you're sitting here grinding, hustling, taking care of customers and trying to make a dime and trying to get validation, words of affirmation from people, like you said, that may not even remember you or notice you. So the ones that will are the ones that closest to you, your family, your mom, dad, kids.
Right. Like how are we showing up for them? Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. Okay. I'm curious your thought here. Entrepreneurs listening to this, business owner or leader, what would you say to them? They know they've neglected themselves for way too long. They hear what you're saying. They've internalized it. But what would you say to that leader who's knows they've neglected themselves just from a whole far too
Mhm.
long?
Yeah, I think I would say, you can start slow. And a lot of, businessmen, entrepreneurs, leaders, it's a busy lifestyle, you never really slow down. And I think sometimes we think like if it's a workout, sometimes we think it has to be an hour or it has to be 45 minutes, when honestly, a 20-minute walk is okay. You know what I mean? And then if it's self-reflection or meditation, I mean, I meditate for 10 minutes a day. I mean, we all have 10 minutes a day, right? Like who doesn't have 10 minutes a day? So I think just getting out of that mindset that working on ourselves is a full-time job. I mean, I think we start slow, take off small baby steps and small bites. And what I think we'll notice is it actually creates more time in the other areas because, we're probably more productive. We're showing up a little better. And so taking 10 minutes or 20 minutes here is going to multiply in those other places in our life. So yeah, just start slow. You don't have to block off half a day for self-improvement.
Yeah. Brilliant advice. On the flip side of that, what would you say they need to stop tolerating? Like, they need to stop tolerating this.
What I go to when you say that is I go to like negative self-talk or negative thoughts, because that's a downward spiral that will just keep going and going. And the next thing we know, we've spent 20 minutes talking about how terrible we are, how bad we feel, or how we should be doing this, when if those 20 minutes could have been spent improving those things that we just talked about. You know what I mean? Yeah. So just get rid of that whole negative self-talk. I mean, we all have negative thoughts. There's no way that we're going to magically not have a single one. But I think capturing it in the beginning stages of it, not letting it spiral downward, and just capturing it and just kind of reframing it, like, how can I switch this to a little more positive thinking? And then you also don't spend so much time just, like I said, that downward negative spiral. So get rid of that negative self-talk.
Is there any tricks or tips that you do when you have those negative thoughts that enter your mind in those moments throughout the day? Is there something that you implement in your life, in your mindset, that has worked for you?
Yeah. So for me personally, I say a quick prayer for myself. Like, if I'm like, oh, Jason, you're so whatever, I'll say a quick prayer. Like, that's not from God. God, help me deal with this. And I move on. Now, sometimes I say that prayer several times a day, and that's kind of my go-to. But I also know, people who just can just take a minute and do some big deep breathing exercises, maybe getting out of that environment. If you're in your house and you're looking around and you're beating up yourself for something, go outside, get a walk, change the environment, change what you're looking at, and then maybe get some other thoughts going in that brain that'll get rid of that other one.
Oh, man, that's brilliant advice. Great advice. Yeah, I love to go take a walk, change up the environment, depending on the space that I'm in. Gratitude, like, what am I grateful for? Let me flip the switch. It's funny, me and my wife do this when I find myself complaining to her, or I find myself just being negative because I'm tired, hungry, or angry, or lonely. Mm-hmm. You know what she'll ask me? She'll be like, out of nowhere, "Hey, Sean." I'm like, "Yeah? What are you grateful for?" And I know that's the trigger.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm being negative right now.
Yeah, now's not the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's good though. That's good.
Okay, my friend. Well, we are at our favorite part of the episode. A lot of our listeners love these rapid fire questions. So I've got 5 of them for you. The instructions are simple. Quick answers. Don't overthink it, okay?
Okay, shoot.
The first one habit every leader should have.
Meditation.
Biggest thing people overcomplicate in health.
Working out.
What matters more long-term, motivation or discipline?
Discipline.
One thing every entrepreneur should protect more.
Their peace.
I received that. When you hear the word legacy, what comes to mind first?
What we want to be known for.
Beautiful. Jason, this has been a powerful conversation, brother. I really appreciate you saying yes to being on the show, your heart, your leadership, and reaching out, man, and the impact that you've made over the years, all these over 2 decades. So not just in fitness, obviously, but helping people become stronger in everyday life and what you're doing. So I know our listeners got a lot of value from this one. Guys, make sure you go out and help this awesome individual out. Monday Mindset. It's on Amazon, correct? Is there anywhere else?
Yes, it is.
Monday Mindset?
Yeah, it's on. So I have a website, mondaymindsetbook.com. You can get there, or Amazon.
Perfect. Go check that out. Let's support him. And again, continue to get around the right people, be challenged and sharpened, and grow in your health, your business, and your leadership. Come be a guest at the Level Up Live Mastermind Group. We meet every Friday at 7:30 a.m. We'd love to have you in the room. Jason, thank you again for being on the show.
Thanks, Sean.